I want to go back to my old ways. I want to party more and do more drugs like I used to, man. I
Okay.
fucking miss those days.
Okay. Well, I think that'll be pretty easy. So today, let's intro it. Today, we're going to be talking about habits, systems, and goals, and how to set yourself up for the year ahead, how to set those goals, and then also implement the habits and or systems that are necessary for you to achieve them. And you want to do the intro for the pod, guy?
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Idiots Squared, where two complete fucking morons are just trying to figure this out.
Well done. Well done. Okay, so you mentioned you've got some goals. I've also...
Sorry, I fucked that intro up. That's not even the intro.
That's whatever it is. Doesn't matter. We're
true.
Idiots, guy. We can get away with whatever we want. But yeah, that's essentially it. We thought like it'd be... Well, I haven't done this for years, I suppose. I don't know if you've ever done it before.
Like setting goals?
Yeah, for the year ahead?
Yeah. I mean, not for the year ahead, but like in our family, we constantly sit down together and like write down our goals. We call it like our visions, like for what we want in the future. And we write down like everything, like how we want to succeed in business, how we want to succeed in health, how we want to succeed in our relationships. And we come back to it like not as often as I would like, but you know, often enough. And it's dope when you can like check things off, you know what I mean? Or when you add things to the list, yeah.
Big time. So, but it was mainly goal focused, is it?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. But like I said, like it's pertained to like all aspects of life.
Yeah, but so the main sort of thing I wanted to discuss is like recently there's been like historically people talk about goals all the time. Like you got to set goals, you got to set goals. And sort of the main sort of problem with goals is like you might set a goal that's kind of like the destination, but then it's like, well, how do you get to that destination? And you know, so there's probably what I've found for myself personally is better systems or better way to go about it is set your goal that gives you the destination, and then the habits or the systems are the things that get you there. They're like the steps that you take to get to that goal. It's sort of like the goal is the destination or the direction, and then the habits and the systems are the steps that you take each day to move towards that. And so I think setting goals isn't a bad thing, but making sure you have the habits and all the systems to support you achieving those goals is really important.
Yeah, so your question was more pertained to if I'm doing those day-to-day steps in order to achieve those goals, right?
Yeah, or if you plan them in. So you know how you mentioned that you wrote down all the stuff, like all the goals and business and everything that you wanted to achieve. Did you set up on like as well as those goals? Did you put that, like write down the habits or break it down into the habits that you would need or the systems that you would need to get there? Yeah, so I found that that's a common thing for most people.
Never done that. Yeah. Okay, it sounds interesting. It's like sort of taking my vision board a step further.
Yeah.
Really getting down to the nitty-gritty of what is the plan of going about doing this, which is interesting because if you're a person who isn't very well organized, I suppose your first goal would be to getting organized because that requires, you know, a good amount of organization and for you to be able to sort of do that process.
Yeah. So we'll provide a framework today for how to do that.
Nice.
Yes. So I put together a bit of a PDF for this, which we'll include in the description. Go through a bit of this. Yep, sweet, cool. So it sort of overlines it. So before we get into what yours, okay, why don't we just jump straight in? Like get into your goals. Okay. I can get into some of my goals, and then we can go through the PDF just briefly, like to read over a couple of the systems and things, and then we can piece by piece sort of break it down, set them up. So first and foremost, what are your goals for 2023?
All right. So every time we do this exercise, I always write down the same thing first because it's the thing I've been working hardest towards, and it is gaining monetization on our YouTube channel. Me and my wife have this YouTube channel.
Yep.
It's in Spanish. It's called Miss Bunny, and it's evolved over the last couple of years. And we've been struggling to grow the channel. So that's like the number one thing for me on that list is how can we, get this channel monetized, get this channel generating an income so we can sort of like do this and travel doing it and, basically make a life out of it.
Because you actually enjoy doing it, right?
I love doing it. This is like a 24/7 thing for us. Yeah. And we have another channel now because one of Miss Bunny's cousins, he saw our videos. So the main channel, Miss Bunny channel, is about nutrition. And
what's the handle?
At
Miss Bunny.
Miss Bunny Nutrición.
Okay.
Ahora Miss Bunny Nutrición, because it's in Spanish, right? So all the videos are in Spanish, so the handle's in Spanish. But anyways, we go to restaurants, we try food, we talk about like the nutritional content of food. We talk about we rate the food, we talk about the texture and all that stuff. Like we've been trying to study like how a professional would analyze food, and we've been trying to incorporate that into it as well. We also do a story about the restaurant, the owner. There's a lot of like things we include in each video. But yeah, we've been struggling getting it to grow. And during our process of doing the Miss Bunny, one of Miss Bunny's cousins, he sells houses. And he's like, yo, why don't you guys do a video for me trying to sell like these houses? Because he bought a huge plot of land and he got a construction company to sort of build all these houses. So it's like a huge project. It's a really nice, cool project. It's near Cali. And anyways, Cali, Colombia. And he got us to do a video, and like we had fun doing it. And he thought that Miss Bunny has a lot of talent and that if we should continue doing it. So we started a second channel, and that channel's geared towards that, selling plots of land and or houses. So we work with pretty much anybody who's interested in allowing us to do a video of their property, and it's kind of cool. We haven't sold anything yet. Also been struggling with that channel, growing that channel as well. But we're in the grind, so I'm not stopping. I'm not going to stop. Not planning on stopping. Same with Miss Bunny. We're very, very focused on trying to make both channels work.
Okay, so that's the meta goal. Like that's the overarching goal. Get those to be financially viable, so to speak.
Yeah, those are like those are our short-term goals.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's a big goal for 2023, right? So that's like today we'll just focus on like the year ahead, so to speak. Okay. We can set bigger goals outside of that as well, but we'll break down the ones for this year. Otherwise, I dare say that the pod would turn into multiple hours.
That's true. So I shoot for the stars. I said 1 million subscribers in 2023 is what I wrote down.
I like it.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
So we got to get a path to 1 million.
What's that?
Create a path to 1 million.
Yeah, dude, path to 1 million. Right now we're at 786, so it's a joke. Like it's not a serious channel. We're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
It's just not being taken seriously yet.
Little things, big things grow.
That's right.
You got to start somewhere, guy. That's cool. 100%. So any other goals? Right. So you've got these listed, do you?
Yeah. Another thing on my list is, I didn't put this down for 2023 because, we need to start generating money first. But I told you about this hydration supplement that we want to release here in Colombia because I don't want to give out too many details, but basically it's a hydration supplement. And we wanted to get you involved, actually. I briefly mentioned it to you. There are some people here that are serious about doing it. We have a ex-soccer goalie who's interested in it. And basically, we're going to use his fame and some connections that Miss Bunny has. I would love for you to get involved as well. If we could somehow, I know we're going to make progress on that this year. I just don't know if it can be released yet because there's still, money is an issue.
Yeah,
So that's
I'd
where
say
like,
you're thinking way too much about these things. But is it a goal or not? Well, let's make it a goal, hey?
yeah, it's a goal. It's a goal.
Okay, so launch the hydration supplement. All right. Okay. Next goal. All right.
Yeah.
Any other goals? Let's fucking rapid fire this shit.
All right. I want to maintain good health, and I want my family to maintain good health, and I want the people around me to maintain good health, and I want to influence them to be more health conscious. I don't care if I'm annoying the fuck out of people. It's just something we gotta take seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
I
So
agree.
that's another huge thing on my list. I think that was like number 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one.
That we begin to meditate. I've always wanted to begin meditating, and that's on the list. Yeah, I definitely want to just get in the habit of maybe daily, weekly. I'm not really sure yet, but I want to start getting into meditation.
Yep.
Definitely, yeah.
Nice. I like it. And then
ice baths.
You mentioned ice baths is one as well.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna see if you were mentioning the druggish as well, or if that was a off pod.
Oh, I was just fucking around. But dude, to be honest, like sometimes I'm like, I'm doing something, I'm working or something, and then like my mind kind of starts dreaming. Like, oh, dude, remember those fucking days, like going to dubstep shows and doing a whole bunch of Molly and acid, and like, fuck, that was so good, man. Or like just going on like a camping trip and doing a shit ton of mushrooms, like way too much, to the point where you're having like this dark experience, but then it turns into a beautiful experience. Like I do want to go back to doing that shit. It's just the time. I just don't have the time to do it, because man, you go out on like a Molly night to like a dubstep show, like, I mean, the whole weekend's gone. You know what I mean?
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the trick is, it's not that you don't necessarily have time. You just haven't blocked out the time, right? And so by setting this as a goal, you can block out some time. I'm a big believer, purely because of my own experience with it, and then anecdotally the experiences that I've spoken to other people about that they've had doing this. But I'm a big believer in doing 2 what I would call cognitive resets every year. Right. And so for me, that cognitive reset would involve something like mushroom psilocybin, or an acid LSD based one, where you do take what you colloquially called a heroic dose of those substances, like you said, too much, so to speak. So you don't have control over that trip. You completely lose control and let it take you where you sort of need to go. But I've found, because I haven't always done that, but I have done that over the last few years, and I find that to be incredibly helpful. Kind of like your bi-yearly ego death, well, not bi-yearly, sorry, your twice a year ego death. Okay, and so I think that it's very useful, and so I can imagine that an MDMA based sort of experience would also be pretty helpful as well. But yeah, I think blocking the time out for that kind of stuff is really important. The thing is, if you're working really hard day to day, you can just get lost in that work and you forget to set, that goal or that bigger picture sort of ticket. But yeah, I've found twice a year to be a good sort of cadence.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that. Like where I live in South America, there's a bunch of shamans traveling around. I always like see them on my WhatsApp. They do ayahuasca ceremonies and they do mushroom ceremonies. And like the 2 times that one of the shamans was like in the area to do a mushroom ceremony, like I wanted to do it, and I just like, I don't know, I just didn't set aside the time, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really, really want to do one for sure. More than one.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should add to your list, right? Allocating time, or setting aside time for you to not just work, but for personal development outside of work. I think that should be a big goal for you, because you've been grinding. You have really been grinding hard, and I think those sorts of things help you to. It's kind of like I sent through an article yesterday in one of the group chats we're in about the research focus. right? So having
Yeah.
to pull back out and read more broadly. So you've kind of been doing depth, right? You've been hammering down this depth path. And then taking that time for yourself, doing that cognitive reset with those substances is kind of like pulling out and having a breadth. So being able to see the whole thing more holistically, because you might be putting too much effort down one specific path that isn't fruitful. And so being able to take that time to pull back, get that broader view, might allow you to see a different path or a different direction to maybe take it, or a different thing that you otherwise missed because you're so close, you're so down in the weeds day to day, so to speak.
Yeah. Another thing on my list was pay off my student debt. I'm fucking getting that done this year, man. I don't care. I'm gonna get it done.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that. Any other goals?
What was another goal on my list? Continue training. Some of my goals were basically continue doing what I'm already doing, right? So
Sweet.
one of them was continue working out, make sure to go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, continue eating healthy, continue taking your supplements, continue taking, for example, omega-3, continue eating healthy, don't go and eat McDonald's, like don't eat shit food, things like that. Just like continue doing a lot of things that I'm already doing and improve on some of the things. So for example, one of the things I want to do is change my relationship with food a little bit. My current relationship with food is like, I'm just eating. I eat healthy, right? Like all the food I eat I mean, we could probably analyze my diet and find things that are wrong with it. You mentioned before something about beans. Something about beans, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I believe I'm eating healthy, right? But I would like to change my relationship with food by structuring my diet as like I'm eating something as like nutrition to nutrient. What's the word? Nourish. Yeah.
Yeah, dog.
to nourish myself, right?
Yeah.
I want that to be my goal. So I know exactly
nourish and fuel.
What I mean. Yeah, nourish and fuel.
Yeah, so that's the two components. That's what I found to be most useful for thinking about food, is that fundamentally food has two purposes, which is to nourish your body, provide the necessary things, and then also fuel your body. And so eating for nourishment and then understanding how much fuel you need based on your activity and the requirements of your body is just really simple. But yeah, we can do that. Let's do that in a pod. We'll do a nutrition one for sure.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah,
so you want to change your relationship to food is a goal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a goal.
Anything else?
Travel to Canada.
Okay.
I haven't been home in 4 years. I've seen my family, but I haven't been home in 4 years. So I would like to go home this June. June, July, August is my goal to go home. And it's it's a friend of ours' wedding this summer as well. So I want to make sure that I'm home for his wedding and yeah, just
two birds, one stone. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And the wedding is like a forcing function. It really helps to like get you to do that task or get you to do that activity.
Yeah. So what I actually already started doing like a couple months ago is I started writing down a speech that I want to do, because I just love like doing speeches at my friends' weddings. Like, I love like writing down like a ridiculous speech and like performing it.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to start doing it now. And this is going to like get my mind ready, my mindset for being able to plan this trip to Canada and actually like getting the money together and being able to go there and do it.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Any other big goals or any other goals at all? I reckon that's
good for 2023, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you, bro?
So my goals are pretty simple. I want to start traveling again, beyond the country that I'm currently in, Australia, because since the end of 2019, I haven't really done anything. COVID and the rest of it. So I definitely want to do that. One of the destinations is come and see you in Colombia. I'd like to do that for a period of time, a few weeks, maybe even a month or so.
Nice.
I think that would be pretty lit. Yep.
Yeah.
I want to start publishing the writings that I've been doing, not necessarily, I didn't set it as a goal, but last year I wanted to, like, I spent the last few years reading and trying to learn as much as possible. And I didn't write very much during that time. And I haven't never really been a big writer. And so after ingesting all of that information and knowledge and things like that, I wanted to start putting it down. And I think writing is a very interesting thing, because it sort of forces you to have to take all these different branches and put it down into like a singular format, right? Or a coherent set of thoughts and ideas or words. And so I've typically struggled with that a lot. And so over the last year, I've started writing more, but I just don't publish any of it. I don't put it anywhere. I don't do any of that. So that's one of my goals this year, is to start publishing that, start presenting it, or putting it out there online at the very least. Goal number 3 is to grow an audience, all right, around this podcast and other things online and in person, and get out of my bubble, so to speak, and have more collisions with more people beyond my local environment. And that sort of ties into that travel a bit more, etc. But I typically don't put myself out there beyond the sort of small community that I have or that I'm around geographically. And so I just want to go out and do that a bit more. So spread some more love, so to speak, have some more positive interactions, and just have fun. But that ties into the travel goal. But that's all. That's really all for my goals. Like, I've got my healthy habits down pat. I've got all that kind of stuff. Like, I get my sunlight every morning. I go for my walks. I train regularly. I eat a good diet. Blah, blah. Like, I eat to nourish my body and fuel my body, all those kinds of things. So they're all pretty much set up. But yeah, mine are just get out and travel more, write and publish that writing more, right? Develop audiences around this podcast and other ventures online. That's pretty much simple as.
That's beautiful, though. That's beautiful. That's good, man.
Okay. So if you want to go anywhere, let me know. Otherwise, I was going to say we have a run through this PDF.
Yeah, let's flash it, guy.
Okay. I'll share screen.
Kind of feel guilty for not even mentioning the Idiot Squared podcast in my goals.
It's okay.
Oh, but I'm glad you put it in there, so we're good, guy. You mentioned it, so
it's on.
I'm trying not to put so much pressure on this podcast, because I put so much pressure on everything I do, and you said something to me really beautiful before, a couple months ago. Trying to remember what it was. But it was basically, I can't remember what it was. Maybe you can remember, but it was basically something like forcing things. Like, if you force something, it's not going to necessarily work, versus if you sort of like just like let the thing happen on its own. Something along those lines. Is that ringing a bell?
Yeah. So I think there was 2 different things that are kind of similar. Yeah. So one was like, whenever you sort of go after something, like think about trying to catch like a butterfly or whatever. Like, as you try to go for it, it'll sort of get away from you, and it's this sort of the act of putting your hand out there kind of creates this pressure, like the air pressure on the butterfly, that sort of pushes it away. Yeah. Whereas if you create the space for it to come to you, then it'll sort of land. But like, yeah, I found historically, if you're really trying to like actively get something like that, you end up pushing it away. And so then, instead of trying to get it like that, just create the space for it to come to you. And that's where these habits and all these other things go in. But then there's another one, I think, which was about beliefs, which is like have beliefs, but hold them loosely, right? Like, hold them like you're holding a butterfly in your hand. Hold it gently. You don't want to hold it too tightly to crush it, and be willing to open your hand and let it go at any point as soon as you get new information. But yeah, there is a better way to say the chasing one. I'll get it up. We'll do a whole pod on it. That'll be fun.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. I'll share this bad boy.
Yeah.
Is that sharing with you?
Yeah, I can see it.
Pretty cool. So I'll just put you and I. See,
I didn't read the revised PDF you gave me, by the way.
that's all good. Don't even worry about it.
I just read the original.
Okay. So here we go. Okie dokie. So it says, yeah, okay. So habits / systems and goals. So why are systems or habits said to be better than goals? So while goals are important for setting direction and providing motivation, they are often not sufficient on their own for achieving long-term success. This is because goals are typically focused on a specific end result, and once you reach that result, it can be easy to lose motivation or direction. I've found this many times. I'm sure you have as well. On the other hand, systems and habits are focused on the ongoing processes and routines that support your goals. By building good systems and habits, you can create a foundation for sustained success and make progress towards your goals on a regular basis. For example, let's say your goal is to lose weight. A goal-based approach might involve setting a target weight and trying to achieve it as quickly as possible. However, this approach can be unsustainable as it does not address the underlying behaviors and habits, such as diet and exercise, that contribute to weight loss. On the other hand, if you focus on building healthy habits like exercising regularly and eating a balanced diet, you can make progress towards your weight loss goals in a more sustainable way. These habits will also have other benefits such as improved physical and mental health that can contribute to your overall well-being. It says, in summary, while goals are important for setting direction, systems and habits are what enable you to make consistent progress and achieve long-term success. So essentially, goals are the destination, and habits / systems are the steps needed to get there. So yes, and it says, yes, that's a good way to think about it. Goals are the destination or end result that you are working towards, while habits and systems are the steps or processes that you need to follow, to get there. Goals provide a clear target to work towards and can be a powerful source of motivation. However, it is important to remember that achieving a goal is not the end of the journey. It's just one milestone along the way. Habits and systems, on the other hand, are the ongoing routines and processes that support your goals. By building good habits and systems, you can create a foundation for sustained success and make progress towards your goals on a regular basis. So there's another example. Let's say your goal is to run a marathon. The marathon is the goal. It's the destination that you are working towards. However, simply setting the goal of running a marathon is not enough to actually accomplish it. To reach your goal, you need to build the habits and systems that will support your training, such as creating a training plan, setting aside time for regular runs, and fueling your body with the right nutrients. These habits and systems are what will enable you to make consistent progress and ultimately achieve your goal of running a marathon. So that was kind of like my sort of overview with, like a lot of people think that goals are the best way to go, but like we spoke about, goals are one aspect. It's like the destination. It tells you exactly where you sort of want to get to. And then the habits and the systems, that's the day-to-day actions that end up getting you there. They're the steps, all right? So say the goal is climb Mount Everest. The habits and the systems are the steps that you take to get up to Mount Everest.
Okay, so I want to ask you something, Rubes. Would you say you're a goal-oriented person?
Not typically, right? Like I have been through parts of my life, but not. It isn't not exclusively that kind of person. I find that I've oscillated between them. I definitely can attest to the fact that I've set many goals in my life, and it's the funny thing about that is like once I've achieved them, I'm just like, oh, now what?
Right.
And I always found that was like a bit of a difficult thing. But what I've recently done is I've started turning my goals. I've started using goals that I might have to create the systems and habits, right? So that reverse engineering, that getting the systems and habits in place. And once I've achieved that goal, I sort of keep those systems and habits indirectly.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. So my question is what what is innate in you? What is part of like you that enables you to set goals and achieve them?
I'm
What do you
not
think it
sure.
is?
That's a good question. Well, I think part of it comes down to an awareness, right? So I wasn't always aware. I think it comes down to an awareness of what's possible, right? Like when I was younger, I wasn't necessarily aware of all that was possible. And as I started to read and learn more and have more life experience, like be exposed to different people in different circumstances and different qualities of life and different experiences in life, it opened my eyes, right? So I became more aware of what's possible in the world. And then when I started to spend time around people who were at, if we say there's levels to life, people that had more money or different lifestyles or who had achieved different things like, athletes or Olympians or different things like that, I started to realize that a big part of, why they were different or why they had different lives is because they sort of set goals or they had different habits and systems that led them to get here. And so I was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And then that sort of created that process. But I think it really comes down to like an awareness of what's possible, what's out there. I had my eyes opened and then I couldn't unsee it, right? And then I couldn't live with myself not achieving more things in life because I knew it was possible.
What is, like, if you can go back and try and remember, what is like the first big goal you set and achieved?
For myself?
Yeah, like the very first one that you can remember in your life.
That's a good question. Okay, this is going to sound hilarious.
No.
When
I'll explain where I'm going with this in a second.
Yeah. So when I was younger, what would I have been? I would have been like 13 years old.
Yeah.
This is a big like actual. I remember having this clear, thought out process. Right. I love basketball. I still do enjoy basketball, but I don't like watch it like I used to or anything. But I was obsessed with basketball back in the day. Okay, and I'm fascinated with American culture in terms of like the basketball and everything like that because I lived in Australia and it was very different in Australia to what it looked like in America. And this is back when you had your Michael Jordans, the Shaquille O'Neals, and all these kinds of people. Anyway, so I really love basketball, and I played it regularly, and I really wanted to dunk. Right, so I was 13 years old. I think I probably would have been like 6'2", maybe 6'1", 6'2", and I couldn't dunk. Right, but I was pretty athletic, and so I remember setting the goal like I want to dunk. That's my goal. And so I remember like trying to find out how do you jump higher, and then I realized, then I found a term called increased like vertical jump, and I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And so then went down this big rabbit hole, and this was like lucky the internet was then, so I could find some information on the internet. Anyway, researched all this stuff, put together like a little sort of plan on how to increase my vertical jump. And I remember practicing, and it must have been just before my 14th birthday. Maybe it wasn't just before my 14th birthday. Yeah, it was. And I remember I practiced, and this is hilarious, right? I literally practiced for like 3 weeks. And then I dunked.
Dude, are you fucking kidding me? At 14, you were dunking, bro?
Yeah, year 8. I remember it clearly in year 8. And I have
dude. That's insane.
Yeah, I have a newspaper from the town that I was in at the time. Newspaper article with me as the big picture doing a dunk, and I was in year 8. But I remember the first dunk that I ever did. I've been practicing, like I said, for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy who lived across the road from me. This is a hilarious story. And he was selling a motorbike, and I really love motorbikes as well. And I wanted to buy the motorbike, okay? And so he went to my school, and he was a few years above me. I think he was in year 11 or 12, top age group. Anyway, I was talking to him, and I asked him if I could. I said, "Oh, you're selling the motorbike across the road?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, could I come and test ride it?" And he said, "Yes." And I was like, oh, like so excited, right? And I literally, because I was shooting hoops at the time, like I was practicing shooting as he walked past, and I asked him, and so just as he said yes, I was like, yeah, and I ran in and went for my dunk. And the hype of him saying yes and the fact that I'd been practicing, that was my first ever dunk. And I was just like,
good story, man. Good fucking
story. Like, this is overwhelming. Like, I'm going to test ride this motorbike, and I just got my first dunk. Oh my God. It was like overwhelming.
Damn, that's a good story. That's a good story. All right. So I'll tell you now where I'm going with this. So here's what I was thinking when you brought up this idea to talk about, goals and achieving goals for the podcast. I was thinking, like, how does one, understand their own personality, understand like their own emotions to be able to actually get themselves to achieve their goals? And it sounds like to me that you learned something huge in those 3 weeks. You learned that if you want to do something, right, what do you have to do? Okay, number one, I'm going to go research. I'm going to go research online how to dunk, right?
Yep.
Number two, I'm going to go out and I'm going to practice it daily, right? So, like, there's more things that are, but I'm just going to highlight those two things. You could essentially say, okay, like, this worked for me. Moving forward, each time I set a goal, I'm going to research it and do a little bit of work towards it every day.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So for someone who can't get motivated, can't set goals, can't achieve goals, could the very first step for them is just simply thinking about what it is they want to do. But, like, here's the issue. If you don't have like the emotional base of, like, self-love and, contentness, or like some sort of stability, how can you then begin to think about these goals, right? Because your goal is to dunk, you did like these steps to achieve it. So then maybe you didn't consciously know this is how I'm going to achieve other goals in my life, but I'm assuming that carried forth in other goals, perhaps other goals that you tried achieving in your life. But what about somebody who hasn't had that experience? How do you get someone to have that experience so they can learn what it is that they need to do for themselves to become goal oriented or start planning?
Okay, so
if that made any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two things in there, right? I think the most important thing, first and foremost, is that you have to understand the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Okay, somebody that I identify as somebody with a growth mindset. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you identify as somebody with a growth mindset, but there are people in the world who do not. They identify as having a fixed mindset. Okay. Now, the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, someone who has a growth mindset does not believe that who they are today is who they will always be. Right? They believe that things can change and you as a person can change over time. Okay. And you can grow, you can develop more skills, you can learn, you can do all these things. Somebody who has a fixed mindset thinks that how they are is how they're always going to be. There is no change there. Okay. I find it very hard to believe that people actually have fixed mindsets considering their age and all sorts of different things. Like, it seems very illogical to me to be a fixed mindset person. Yeah. Like, I struggle to understand how anyone could, but people do. So I think just being aware that there are those two different sort of categories of people, right? And identifying if you are, do I think I'm a fixed mindset person? And then you can use that to go, okay, well, all these people are growth mindset people. And just because they believe their growth mindset, they end up changing, right? So it's that belief system. Like, if you believe that you can't change, I don't think you will change. Yeah. But if you believe that you can change, well, then you can change and you will change. And it's that simple belief, right? So it's if you do currently identify as a fixed mindset person, right? Then look at all the people that are growth mindset, look at how they do change, and realize that it's your choice. If you choose to identify as somebody with a growth mindset, you will grow and change, and anything is possible. All right. But if you keep that fixed mindset, right, then you won't. I think that's fundamentally what it comes down to, your belief system. If you believe you can't change, you won't change. If you believe you can change, then you will change. Yeah. And the second aspect is what I call rigging the game to win. Okay. So if you use the example of me dunking, my ignorance was like, I'll be able to dunk for sure. If these guys can dunk, I can dunk. Right? I used my vicarious experience. I saw them doing it, and I was like, well, the only thing that's different between me and them is the skin color. And in Michael Jordan's case, like a couple of inches taller, that kind of thing. But a little bit of detail on that, right? So I measured myself at the time, and I'm pretty sure I was 6'2" or 6'3" at that point in my life. I'm 6'4" now. But at that point, I was 6'2" or 6'3". And so I went through, and then I found Allen Iverson, who was like 5'11" or 6 foot, and he could dunk. And I was like, well, if he can dunk, I can dunk. And then there's another guy called Muggsy Bogues, who was like 5'5" or 5'4" or something like that.
Yeah.
And he could dunk. And I was like, well, if he can dunk, I can dunk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so I found counter examples of people who were shorter than me, who could do the thing that I wanted to do. So then that, like, in my mind, I couldn't use height as an excuse. I couldn't be like, well, I'm not tall enough to dunk. Okay. So that's kind of an important key aspect. But fundamentally, it comes down to rigging the game to win. So don't set huge goals. Set a tiny little goal that you can easily hack, or easily win. Right. So we do this at own a gym. And so we do this at the gym. Right. If somebody hasn't trained before, I don't get them to come in for an hour-long session. I get them to come in and do 10, maybe 15 minutes, right? And that's not of training, that's of just being in the gym, yeah? So they might do one set of this, one set of another thing, and one set of another thing. So like 3 sets of 3 different exercises, right? For 10, 12 reps or whatever's appropriate for the exercise. And that's their first session. And then we talk and go over other stuff. That's a really low barrier. And then the next session, they could do a little bit more. And then the next session, a little bit more. And then they start to prove to themselves that they can, and that it is easy. And then because they're not doing a huge workout, they don't get all this soreness, they don't get all this horrible side effects, so to speak. And so that it's easy for them to keep doing that. But I would say start small. Prove to yourself that you can do a really little thing, and then do another thing and another thing, and sort of build from that. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm beginning to realize you can't get someone to make a goal. It has to come from within. You have to
be intrinsic.
In what you said, you have to change sort of your identity. That's cool as fuck. If I can change my identity, that's sort of the first step in order for me to have this different sort of mindset, to believe that I can achieve a goal that I set.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and it's just a belief, right? You don't even have to do anything physically, so to speak. It's just a psychological belief. And I think that the really key point to start out there is to expand your vocabulary. If you're not aware of growth mindset versus fixed mindset, just hearing those two things, it's now in your vocabulary. And you can understand that there are people who believe that, of fixed mindset belief, that believe that they won't change and things don't change, or growth mindset people on the other side who believe that you can change. And it's that simple difference in belief that leads to 2 very different outcomes in life. And that's it. I think that fundamentally is where it comes down to.
Nice. I want to come back to that identity thing later in the episode.
Yeah, guys, that's a good point. But it really is. If you identify as somebody with a fixed mindset, you're pretty much sealed your own fate, right? Whereas if you identify as somebody with a growth mindset, anything's possible. You've opened up a world of possibilities. So let's get into how we can set these goals. Is that a good direction from here?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So I asked ChatGPT, how can someone set some goals for a new year, say 2023, and then structure the habits to achieve them? So it suggested we use SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Okay, so SMART goals are pretty good. So once you've identified your goals, you can start to create habits that will support them. Here are some steps you can follow. So step number one for people, you can break your goal down into smaller, more manageable tasks. This will make it easier to focus on one thing at a time and give you a sense of progress as you complete the task. So do we want to use one of your example goals to give some examples as we go through?
All right, sure.
What goal would you like to break down into smaller pieces?
Let's do the Miss Bonnie Nutrición, canal de Miss Bonnie Nutrición.
Okay, the channel.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have your goal. The goal is, to clarify, is to get to 1 million subscribers.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, and currently you're at just under 1,000.
Yeah. Well below 1,000. Well below 1,000.
I thought you said 700.
Yeah, 785.
Yeah, so that's not well below, guy. That's almost at 1,000. We've got to change your mindset, guy. All right.
Thanks, guy.
To change your identity, you need to identify as somebody who's more successful.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay, so break the goal down into smaller, more manageable tasks. This will make it easier to focus on one thing at a time and give you a sense of progress as you complete each task. Okay, so how do we get to 1 million? Well, first we need to get to 1,000, and then we can think about doubling our subscribers each time, right? So how have you got from 0 to 700?
Just grinding and making people subscribe at gunpoint. Like, I have taken out a gun and said, no, like, you will subscribe to the channel right now, watch the whole goddamn video, and give it a like and pass it along to your friends. So it's been tiring, guy. Like, I've done that 785 times.
Yeah, okay, that is not a sustainable process.
It's been tough, man. But we have like really been trying to like get people to watch the video, subscribe. Like for example, each time we're in an Uber, like we'll tell the Uber driver, oh yeah, by the way, we have a channel. You know, we'll like get it in there. In the conversation somehow, we'll get it in there. Yeah, you should check it out. You should subscribe and make sure you watch the videos till the end.
That's good. So you're doing promotion, everybody. Right? In person and online. Okay, so what we can do is we can go break the goal down into smaller, manageable tasks. Well, the first thing is get to 1,000. Okay, all right. And sometimes you have to do unsustainable things before you can do the sustainable things. Okay, so that's been your path so far. It's slightly unsustainable stuff. So we need to firstly get to 1,000. Okay, so we can look at what you've done. Right, we can list out all the things that you've been doing, right? Producing the content, everything else. Okay, that's fantastic. Other ways you've been trying to get it out, talking to the Uber people, holding people at gunpoint, joke, etc. Right? And then we can then compare that to what else could be done, what could be done differently, and then we can figure out where the gaps are. Okay, so we can write that down. Right? But I would say the first thing is get to 1,000, and then the next goal is I look at what you did to get to 1,000. Okay, and what other things you can do that you might not have previously tried. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. Yeah, we can look at sharing it in different groups, sharing it in other places, changing the tagging system, all sorts of different things, right? So we can sort of reverse that down. But the first thing should be get to 1,000, and then from 1,000, let's get to 2,000. All right, and from 2,000 to 4,000, we start to double, and within a few doublings, you'll be at 1 million. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 doublings?
Somewhere close to that. It's not a lot. It's crazy. Doubling is insane.
Yeah, that's true.
Insane. Okay, so we make it simple, right? Now, number 2 is identify any obstacles that might stand in the way of your success and come up with strategies to overcome them. For example, if you want to exercise more, but you have a busy schedule, you might need to set aside specific times for workouts or find ways to fit in short bursts of activity throughout the day. So we'll swap this example, the exercise one, for growing your channel. Okay. So certain obstacles, right, is that it's an attention economy. Everybody's competing for everybody's attention, okay? And, you would think that, if you're a logical or rational thinker, you would think that educational content would be highly sought after. But it typically isn't. It's actually quite a hard sell. You would think that most people would be open to doing things that improve their health and fitness, right? And their ability to enjoy life, so to speak. But it's a hard sell, right? Turns out that getting people to exercise and eat healthy is way harder than a logical and rational person would think, right? It's easier just to eat the junk food and sit around and do nothing. It's the path of least resistance, okay? So, for your example, identify any obstacles that might stand in the way of your success and come up with some strategies to overcome them. So, are there any obstacles that you think or that you found that might stand in the way of your success?
I mean, we talk about, like, this is like an everyday thing for us, right? For Miss Bunny and I, and now Miss Bunny's son. He's seen like the passion we have for this, so he's been getting involved too. So we have discussions about this all the time, and like we look at, is the thumbnail right? Is the title right? Is the description right? What do the statistics say? Okay, well, this video has 60% of viewer retention. Okay, well, that should generate a lot of views. Why isn't it? Like, let's look at the video. Like I just don't know what the obstacles are exactly. Like you said, it's an attention economy. Maybe we just haven't been around enough. Maybe the algorithm is already being, maybe like what we're doing is just oversaturated, and there's already enough channels discussing food and or nutrition, so there's no room for us until we have like a breakthrough moment. Rubes, I don't know what to say, dude. I don't really know what the obstacles are. I feel like the videos are good, the thumbnails are good, the titles are good, but like it's our own work, so I'm biased to thinking that it's good, right? However, when we talk to friends, like they say the same thing, but are they telling us the truth, right? So
they're trying to be nice.
They're trying to be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know what our obstacles are.
Well,
the algorithm?
I can give you some. Okay. So the biggest obstacle is getting in front of people, right? That's literally the hardest thing, is to grow an audience. Okay. Because it is an attention economy. Everyone's competing for everyone else's attention. Some people have significantly more resources. They can pay to get in front of more groups. They have different ways of, like, they can understand the algorithm at a higher level or at a more fine-grained level, so that they can then game it better, or they can utilize it to their advantage more, etc. But like, we could just broadly say the biggest obstacle is getting enough viewers. So getting your videos in front of enough eyes. Now, if you start to get it in front of lots of eyes and you don't have good viewer retention and things like that, that might be a signal to possibly change the style of content or the way you're delivering the content. Okay. But until you do that, you can't really know. Yeah. And then, so like, that is probably the biggest obstacle. So ideally focusing on different ways to get in front of a broad variety of different people, or how do I get in front of the people who actually do care about this and who want this information, right? So we might need to look at who's your target audience, or who's your desired sort of consumer of this content. Who do you think will be wanting to watch this content, right? So we can identify those kinds of things. But I think the biggest obstacle is getting in front of people who actually want and or need your content. Yeah. Big obstacle. Okay. So we can come up with heaps of strategies to overcome those. All right. But that'd be that's what I would say the biggest obstacle is, getting in front of people. Okay.
Yeah.
So number 3, we can make a plan for how you will integrate your new habit into your daily routine. Choose a specific time and place to practice your habit each day, and set reminders to help you stay on track. Okay, so using the example from above, right, where we want to try and get it in front of different people, is each week, right, you could set aside time, or each day you could set aside time, right, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to go into various groups on Facebook, on Twitter, on Reddit, on Quora, on different platforms, right, to answer questions, to help promote that, to say, oh, look, we addressed this topic in this video. Check it out, right? But unless you're actively going and trying to put this in front of people's faces, you can't just rely on the algorithm to do that for you. Yeah? The more interconnected you become in the algorithm, the more people start to watch your content, it'll deliver it for you. It'll do its job. But initially, to sort of bootstrap that growth, you might have to manually, which is like unsustainable, manually go out and try and deliver this to people where they are, where they're spending time. So where are the people who want to view or need to view your content, right? Where are they spending time? And how can you go and get that in front of them? Not just relying on the algorithm. So you might have to allocate, 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day, right? Where you research the different places these people could be, okay? And then you allocate 10 or 15 minutes a day to then going and putting it in front of them, right? So that they can have a chance to see it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, it's a great tip, and it's something that we haven't consistently done. The consistency is
that's the
key
issue. Literally, that is the key, because you never know which one of those things will hit. You just have to try. And don't just try one, right? Try many different. You don't know which path is going to be fruitful ahead of time, right? It's only in hindsight will it seem obvious that was the path to take, okay? But you just have to spread broad, like branch out and put it in front of as many different people as you can, because you might be wrong about your audience, right? Your audience might turn out to be a completely different group of people.
Right.
Yeah? So that's one way to make a plan for how you'll integrate your new habit into your daily routine. So that habit is regularly going on to where people who would be interested in your content or who need to see your content or who would benefit from seeing your content are currently spending time. Okay, that could be online and that can be in person. Yeah, right? Like you could go and do talks about nutrition and health at schools or community centers or churches or other places. And then you could have, cards. This is our YouTube channel. Here it is. Or QR codes that people can scan to get it up so they can subscribe when they're there meeting you in person. Like there's all these different paths that you could do. So I think that's a really important time. You got to block out some time to actively put this in front of people's faces, not rely on the algorithm. Okay. Now, number 4 is very important, right? What we just said, be patient and persistent. Be patient and persistent. Building new habits takes time and effort, and it's normal to encounter setbacks along the way. Don't get discouraged if you struggle at first. Just keep working at it, and you will eventually see progress, right? So with this, you just said, like, being consistent is the biggest one for number 3. So this is just reiterating that, it's all about being persistent or consistent, continuing doing it. Just because you're not getting the outcome you want right now doesn't mean that this won't pay off. Sometimes it is that persistence. They say, what do they say? Success is 90%. What is it? Anyway, something persistence. Persistence is key.
Yeah, I don't recall the saying either.
Yeah, it's something like something about luck and 99% sweat or something like that. Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay, so the other thing is track your progress and celebrate your success. Okay, so this will help you stay motivated and give you a sense of accomplishment as you work towards your goals, right? So track your progress, right? Like, okay, we went and did this different strategy that we haven't tried before. We ended up getting, X amount of followers from it, or we end up getting none, right? Both of those you can be proud about, okay? And I'll show you how. So number 1, if you go and do it and you get some subscribers, be proud that this new thing you did got you some subscribers. 1 is better than none, okay? And even if you go and do a new thing, number 2, if you go and do a new thing and you don't get a new subscriber, you can still be proud because you went and did a new thing. You tried something different. You iterated. You were willing to do something different to get a different result. And just because it didn't work is not a failure. You should be very proud of the fact that you were willing to go and try it. That shows an open mind, and it shows a willingness, and it also shows some persistence. Yeah. The little things like that. But does that seem sort of relevant? Does that sort of give you a bit of a better framework for these goals?
Yeah, like I'm already envisioning myself tomorrow talking with Miss Bunny and trying to find some time where we allocate to actually going on different websites and, you know, even making comments on other people's videos and trying to get our name out there more. We've sat down and had that discussion before, but it's just allocating the time to do it because we're full, dude. Like our plates are full at the moment, and yeah, but it's something important that we need to do. It's a really good tip.
So one aspect too is you might have a certain cadence with the videos you're producing, right?
Yeah.
But you've also got you've got quite a lot of videos that you've already done, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you know how many videos you've done?
Like 290.
Okay.
280.
And what's your
between
cadence?
280 to 290, I think. We started one a week, then quickly we did 2 a week, then we started doing 3 a week. We went back to 2 a week. Then we started the other channel with the house, like doing houses. So now we do 1 a week for each channel. But I've increased the amount of editing like by a lot. Like this last year, I really focused on trying to get a lot better at editing, watching a lot of videos on how to edit my own videos better. And I allocate so much time trying to get the videos just to look beautiful as fuck because the audience here, so we live in Colombia, right? And from my understanding of the Colombian culture, like the video needs to just look beautiful, right? And the content is like a secondary thing. However, how do I explain this? Yeah, like Colombians like things that just look beautiful, you know? Beautiful women, beautiful houses, beautiful cars. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make our videos just look absolutely beautiful. And that's what I've been working towards trying to do.
A good goal, right? Absolutely. But you could probably, not necessarily, like I think that's a very good goal. But is that the most important thing right now? Possibly not. It's actually getting people to like watch or get it in front of people because you're just like, the problem is getting the viewers, getting the views. Yeah. And so it's getting it in front of enough people first, and then that beauty, that can sort of build over time. Yeah. So you might be able to pull some time from that aspect, like not being as sort of OCD or wanting it to be as perfect or as beautiful as possible. Getting it close, don't get me wrong, like don't just make them shit, okay? Still make them nice, but there's probably, it probably takes you 20% of the time to get 80% done on the video, okay? And then it probably takes you 80% of the time to get that last 20% to make it look really good. Would you say that would be a fair statement, or the ratios we could adjust a little bit?
I would say I spend so much time like just, and I mean, I'm not a professional, you know what I mean? Like I didn't, like I've just been editing videos like almost 3 years now. And I find myself to be a fast learner, but I'm not like a super learner. So I'm like between moderate and fast. So I feel like I've come a long way, but obviously I'm nowhere near the level of like, other YouTubers, obviously. And I know I'm not going to get there for a long time still. I'm working towards it. But
update that belief system, guy. Like, if you believe you're going to do it in a month, I think you got a definite chance of doing it. If you don't believe you're going to do it for a long time, I think you'll also be right. Yeah.
Right.
There's a famous Confucius saying. Confucius says, the woman who says she can and the woman who says she can't, both right. All right, comes down to that belief, guy. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. Right. I just have like this number in my head, which is 10 years, right? It takes 10 years for someone to master something. That's like 10,000 hours.
Yep, been disproven many times.
So you're right. There you go. That's an obstacle that I have.
Yep. Get out of your own way.
So, yeah, that's right. That's right. This is good, man. This podcast is good for you, guy.
This is like therapy, guys. This is awesome.
It's like therapy.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. I'll have to monetize this as well. Okay, so, but seriously, you could allocate slightly less time because you don't need that last 20%, right? 80% is good enough for the moment because you don't have the viewers yet. What is it? It doesn't necessarily matter. The trick for you is you've got to get in front of people, right?
Yeah.
The algorithm isn't promoting you yet, so you have to go out and get that promotion yourself. And there's many, many things you can do. And I think in person is actually an underutilized form of that currently.
Yeah, that's what we do the most, to be honest.
The in person?
Oh yeah, dude. Like each time we go to a restaurant, we talk to all the staff, the people that are eating there, promoting the channel, making sure people subscribe, making sure people view the channel. Then like after the video comes out, we'll talk to the owner. Oh, did you publish the video on your socials? Are you posting it on your WhatsApp like daily? Are your employees doing the same thing? And we're like really like being pushy to try and like, you know, talk to as many people and get as many people to watch the videos, which has been helping actually, because if the video is really good and like the owner of the restaurant's happy with the video, like they're more motivated to, you know, move, like send it to their friends. Yeah, exactly. And they're motivated to like, but to be honest, dude, few owners give a fuck. Like they're all, when we get there, they're all, this is another cultural thing. I don't want to be bashing Colombians. Like I love Colombians, but Colombians, they reach like a certain level of success and they just don't give a fuck anymore. Like they don't want, like,
I think that's universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I struggle with that all the time. I'm like, I've got enough. Why do I need to, I don't need to do anything else. Like I can just chill. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So I think that's how they feel with the video. Like, well, I already have a restaurant. I'm already making money. You know, why do I need to move this video for?
All right, I'm going to give you a tip. Ready?
Yeah.
Don't rely on them to do it. Okay? Do it for them. Make it as simple as possible. All right? When you go and you film the video or whatever it is at their place, get their phone, get their socials. Go, I'll post it for you. I'll share it. I'll do this. Bang, 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 done.
Yeah, but I need like passwords to get into their socials though.
What I'm saying is once you do the video and then you go back.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, go back, right.
You've already got it and you go, hey, I did the video, et cetera, pass me your thing and I'll share it on all your socials. I'll share it in your WhatsApp groups. Bang. Right? Because whenever you ask somebody to do it, you know, like it might be hard for them to see the benefit in them doing it. Whereas if you offer to do it for them, that's another simple thing. But the other one too is, so what you're doing is you're very, that's very out on the leaves of the, so to speak, if we think about this as a tree, you're out in the leaves, okay? Whereas if you deliver it to a trunk or a branch, all of those leaves can get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so things like going to a community center or going to a church and saying like, hey, we want to give a talk to your believers about health and nutrition and things that they can do to improve their relationship with food or any number of different things, and finding captive audiences like that or other groups that are interested in this, right? Groups that are interested in these kinds of things, and go to those at a sort of like a higher scale. But there's many things and we can sort of plan this out, but that's kind of like the basic sort of how we break the goal down into littler things that you can do to actively help you get towards that goal. Yeah. There's other things that you could do as well, like if there's local magazines or things like that people regularly get, you can offer to write articles for those magazines, right? And so, and instead of writing an actual article, you can just take what you've done in the video, right? Get a transcript or like, you know, convert the audio to text and then turn that into a little article, right? And then you can use the Miss Bonnie channel, like, oh, here, if you look interested in more tips, follow us here, or any number of those different things, right? Right. That's essentially that sort of meta way to think about it. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, that does make sense, yeah.
But yeah, many different ways, and we just need to break these down in step by step. So we've got that example of growing the channel and what things you can do. And the key thing to remember is sometimes, or initially, when you're trying to get something off the ground, everyone looks for what can I do sustainably, or what can I do how can I sustainably grow, or how can I do this? Like, it's going to be too hard if I have to spend all this time and energy. Well, the key is sometimes at the beginning, most of the time at the beginning, you've got to do unsustainable things to just get it off the ground. to spin it up to a certain level, then you can start looking at doing those things at scale that are more sustainable. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So this is, I asked if there was a framework for doing this sort of, structuring the habits to achieve the goals, right? And so it came up with an interesting framework, and it's called the habit loop, right? By a guy named Charles Duhigg. In his book, The Power of Habit, suggests that habits are formed through a 3-step process. So this is just one way of thinking about it. So number one, there is a cue. This is the trigger that initiates the habit. It could be a specific time of day, a particular location, or a specific emotion. Okay. So we could say, set a specific time of day. Okay. Or even when you're at a particular location, right? When you're at a restaurant, when you're at a venue or whatever, you could make sure to talk to people about whatever you're doing. It sounds like you already do that. Or a specific emotion, right? So it's funny because later on here, they give examples of the emotions, and I think they've got it in the wrong direction. I think they need to invert it, right? So I would link this to any time you have a negative emotion about the size of the channel or the fact that it might not be growing as fast as you want. That should be your cue to go onto one of those forums and post.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because like that comes up frequently.
Yeah. So you'll do it more often, right?
Yeah.
So I think the power is in that inversion. Number 2, routine. This is the action that you take in response to the cue. It could be a physical activity, a mental activity, or an emotional response, right? So we'll link this to a physical activity, which is you then go and one of the platforms that you've identified, you go on there and you post about it, or you answer some questions or provide value, right? And the more value you provide, the more you'll get rewarded. That's the real thing. If you're creating value for people or solving problems that people have, you will benefit, all right? So number 3, reward. This is the positive outcome that you receive as a result of the routine. It could be a feeling of accomplishment, a sense of satisfaction, or a tangible reward like a piece of food. Okay, so the reward you could give yourself is like literally the acknowledgement that you've just done something that you haven't been doing. Okay, a sense of satisfaction, so you could be proud of yourself, saying like, I was feeling down about this, but I just took a positive step to get towards or get closer to our goal. Okay, so you could invert it, or you could reward yourself, they say, with some food, like a piece of food or whatever. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Sometimes I think it's useful, but I think it can also be dangerous as well.
I agree.
Yeah. But it could also be like, now you let yourself go and do, I don't know, it's weird, but for some people it might be like, go on Instagram for 10 minutes or something like that. But you can make anything out of this, right? And so if you think, are there specific rewards that you really like? Like if you do a behavior that you know is going to get you towards your goal that you don't do a lot, right? Is there a specific reward that you could think of that might be beneficial?
I'm not sure, but I do want to make a comment about this. It's probably a bad idea to over reward yourself. Like if you reward yourself every time, I feel like that might be overdoing it, and that might be sort of like a over dopamine response, over dopamine release on your brain, on your system, and that doesn't seem healthy.
I agree.
Be rewarding yourself that much. You should probably reward yourself like here and there.
Well, that's one way, right? This is how I would frame it. So initially, in using your example as the specific example here, okay? So initially, as you go and do, like, so you got your cue, which might be, feeling down about not having enough, as many subscribers as you want, or not getting enough views, right? So then you take the action, which is to go and post or go and do one of these outreach things that you're not doing it as often as you want to right now. So then you go and do that response, okay? So initially, you're probably not going to see, like the ultimate reward is you get more subscribers and more viewers. That's the ultimate reward, okay? But initially, you're probably not going to see that. So you can use some sort of other reward, right, to bootstrap that sense of achievement until that action starts paying off with the subscribers.
Right.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'm trying to think of like what a good reward is for me. I don't really know, dude. I don't really know what a good reward is for me, to be honest. Like, I love food, but I don't want to start rewarding myself with food.
I've got one, right? So if you
Yeah.
do, say you set yourself a goal and you get, you do 7 of these in a week or 5 of these in a week, right?
Mhm.
And or Miss Bonnie does 5 in a week as well, okay? Or just collectively you do 5 or 10, whatever. You set the number to whatever you want. Set it low so it's easy to achieve. And then you and her at the end of the week, once you've ticked that, like you boom, we did that this week, then you go out to a nice restaurant, right? And you use that as a reward, okay? If that's what you love to do, or go dancing, or any number of different things, right? But if you use a restaurant, okay, you can then use that as content, which feeds back into this loop.
Yeah.
You're creating this loop that you can keep spinning up, this flywheel that you can spin up. The more you do it, the more you go out, the more you go out, the more content you get. The more you do it, the more viewers you get. The more you go out, the more content you get. You just keep spinning it up. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna have to put more thought into that.
Well, that's this habit loop, right? And that's the really important thing. And then it rewards itself. It becomes self-fulfilling. So then it's not even that you're doing it for the food anymore, so to speak. That's just a positive byproduct of it. You're actually getting your ultimate goal, which is more viewers, more subscribers.
Right.
Which is fantastic. Okay. So then we can go to create a new habit using the habit loop. You can start by identifying the cue and the reward that are currently driving your existing behavior. Then you can create a new routine that will help you achieve your goals and deliver the same reward. So it seems to me, based off what we've been chatting about, your way of trying to grow is just like make the content more aesthetically pleasing, make it look more of a certain way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's one dimension, but there's all these other dimensions as well to help grow. Yeah. So that's sort of pulling back and going, oh, okay, I've gone down there a lot. Okay. Pull out of that now and let's spread some time and energy on these other aspects that might be otherwise neglected. And you use that reward, that routine and that reward to build that loop. Because it sounds like you've already got the loop for the editing. You already do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Okay, so they use a hilarious example here. Let's say you want to start exercising more. The cue might be the time of day, e.g. after you wake up, the location, your home, gym, or a particular emotion, feeling energized, right? I would not ever have to, like if I relied on feeling energized to work out, I would not necessarily work out very often. Okay? Like especially starting. Like now I do because I exercise regularly. I always feel like, well, not always, but I mostly feel energized. But if I was like, I would invert this. This is my thing. I would say if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling upset about yourself, if you're feeling down about your body image or any number of different negative emotions, I would use that as my cue to go and exercise.
Absolutely.
Because if you want to feel better, just go and move your body. It is one of the greatest antidepressants, feel-good things you can do is just get up and move that body.
Absolutely.
Isn't that like that's really it? So I think that what this example here is sort of wrong. Don't rely on positive emotions or positive feelings. Use the negative ones to cue the new habits you want. Invert it. I think that's more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll probably feel energized after working out anyways.
Literally, that's what'll happen. Yeah. Like you'll feel like shit before, then you start it. Okay, so last one. Well, two to go, right? So I asked about James Clear's Atomic Habits. Have you ever read that book?
No, haven't even heard of it.
Really, really good book. And he just sort of goes over like atomic habits, which is like tiny little things end up being big things. Okay, that's pretty much the main takeaway. You do little things and they add up to be big things over time. So he goes through, and this will bring us back to this identity, right? Clear suggests there are 4 laws of behavior change that can help you build new habits. Number 1 is the law of identity. This law states that your habits are a reflection of your identity. To change your habits, you need to change your identity. Okay?
Yeah, I love this, and I also like initially when I read this, I disagreed with it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because how does one change their identity? Like, I don't know why I just automatically my brain goes to thinking this. Like, I think like the absolute worst, right? So picture just like an overweight guy in his mom's basement on the computer, eating food, playing video games, right? So this is like, man, sorry if anyone's listening who's living that lifestyle, but that's like,
That's all our viewers. You just pissed off every one of our viewers.
all right, well, I
I'm
mean,
joking,
guys,
I'm
come
joking,
on.
I'm joking.
No, but if you are like that, like, dude, like, come on, man. Like, contact us. We'll help you, bro. Right? Because that's kind of like, it's rock bottom. It is what it is. Sorry, it is what it is. So that's like rock bottom, right? So how do you like suddenly start identifying as someone successful when you're overweight, you're in your mom's basement, you're eating food, and you're playing video games all day?
So I disagree with you slightly, but I agree with you on lots of the stuff, but I also have a disagreement. Okay. So how do you help that? You don't help that person. It's not up to you. Right. I think you got to focus on you, do you, right? All you can do is actually just lead by example and live your best life. Okay. You can't change anyone. Okay. Especially if they don't want to change. Okay. So how, using your example of the guy in the basement, mom's basement, on the computer, whatever, overeating, overweight, etc., that person will either have to hit rock bottom to then want to change. And I have my example of this. I hit my rock bottom, and I had to become someone that took action in life. Right. This happened when I was 12 years old. Okay. I was put in some certain circumstances, and I had to make a choice. Like, do I want to be this person, or do I want to be something different? Do I want different things in life? Right. So I had to hit my rock bottom, and I haven't just hit it once. It's probably a couple of times throughout life where you have these moments. Okay. So there's a famous saying: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Yeah. So you can know the path, you can know all the stuff to help these people, but if they don't want to change, they won't. So first and foremost, you've got to want to, right? You've got to want to change, and that's how you change your identity. You've got to want to change. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
not everyone wants to.
Okay, so I'm going to push back on that just a little bit. I think that the overweight guy in the basement doesn't want to be overweight and doesn't want to be living in his mom's basement. Like I can't, I don't agree. I don't think that there are people that want to be in that situation. They've accepted it.
No,
What
you have is the curse of knowledge, right? You're using your reference frame, what you understand now, all of the benefits to being healthy and all of this other stuff, you know all that, right? And then you assume that everyone else knows it, but they don't. Okay. And all that anyone knows is what they know, right? And that's different for every single person. But once you start to learn things and they become obvious to you, right, then you assume that everyone else knows that.
He knows he's overweight, and he knows what like a fit body looks like. He sees it on the internet.
Correct. But he could also be telling himself that the only people that have those bodies are people who use steroids, or they're born like that, and that he's never going to be that way, right? So his belief system is completely different. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that sort of make sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It
and
does.
So
okay.
I agree with you. I think that they can be aware of this reality, but it's not universal, that not everyone is. And that's perfectly fine. Like I said, you can only help someone. Like, even when someone wants to change, it's really hard to help them, right? Like, I've literally done this with thousands of people, and even people that tell you that they really want, people that have to change, like because of medical conditions or life-threatening things, even sometimes they, right, know they have to change. They want to change, but they even then struggle to. That kind of makes sense. Like,
yeah, you're right.
It's incredibly difficult, but I agree with you. In some sense, these people, there is a level of awareness, but it's largely not the case, right? Like, I think that, for using that example, that guy could be telling himself any number of different stories about why all these people are the way they are, and for him, that's real, that's true, and it's fine for it to be true for him, right? Don't waste your time and energy on that person. Find the people who are really wanting to change, right? Who are open to trying new things, and help them. That's where your energy is best spent. Because otherwise, you're going to spend all your time and energy on that person who doesn't even want it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I used to battle with that a lot. Like,
I mean, it would just
that exact same thing.
Yeah, because in my mind, in this like utopian world that I
How could you
sometimes
not?
think about. Yeah, exactly, right? Uh, yeah. By the way, if you're, if you're like under the age of 18, I'm not talking about you. Like, it's fine if you're living in your mom's basement, but I'm more talking about like, 30s, 40s. Like, it's embarrassing at that point,
The
guys.
South
Right?
Park meme. You're talking about the South Park meme. He's got his little wrist thing on.
Yeah. So like the most extreme example is what I'm getting, right?
Yeah.
Because
No, I get you. But that was honestly, that's what I thought that for a long time. And it was only realizing, coming to these things that no, for that person, that's true. And that's fine, right? Don't spend your time and energy there. Find the people who are wanting to do this or already doing it. Go spend your time with them. So that's number one. Need to change your identity. And in order to change your identity, you've got to want to. Okay. That's the super important part. You intrinsically have to want to. And I've found that oftentimes that comes about when you hit rock bottom. It's got to get real bad before it gets better. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. Okay. Next, number two, the law of progress. This law states that small incremental actions lead to compound progress over time. To build a new habit, focus on making small, consistent progress rather than trying to achieve big overnight results. I, sir, have been a slave to this for a long time in my life.
well, yeah, because you dunked in after 3 weeks, dude.
This is the problem. I did these things initially. I got phenomenal results, and it fucked me up for a long part of my life, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's
I was
another
like,
thing I
well,
wanted to
everything's
mention.
easy.
Yeah,
Everything's easy.
exactly. Well, yeah, you dunked at 14 after 3 weeks of trying. Fuck yeah. That was another point I wanted to make earlier. It's like that's gonna have an effect on, you know, your expectation.
Literally, but it has. I'm not lying. Like that achieving big overnight results because I was used to that in athletic ventures, right? And even in school, like I never studied, I didn't do anything, and I was still able to get good marks on stuff, and I was still able to understand things very, like, easily, so to speak. So I didn't even need to try, and I could get good outcomes. And then, when I couldn't do something, all I need to do is try for like a little bit, and I get it. And then, but honestly, that was a very hard thing to overcome because it tainted my view of how hard things actually are, because I had a biased sample size from my youth, if that makes sense. Things came easy to me, so I just assumed everything was easy. Now it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? But it's taken me a long time to get over that. And so this is where I've really noticed, like the last few years, it's like doing these little things consistently is the gold. It's all the little things that really matter. It isn't the big things. The big things are like this giant, I don't know, misleading carrot that's dangled in front of you, but it's not about them. It's all about the little things. It's the little things in life that make life worth living. It's not the big things. They come and go, right? The little things are there consistently. And I think that's such an important thing. So don't try to hit it out of the park with every single thing. Do the little things that lead to those bigger ones, right? Number three, the law of lagging measures. This law states that the result of your habits show up over long term, not the short term. To see the results of your new habit, you need to be patient and persistent. Okay. So this is also a really good thing. Like in the modern age, we're so addicted to getting dopamine whenever we want. And so this is like delayed gratification. One example I like to use is the gym, right? This is something that taught me this delayed gratification, right? So in the gym, you go and you train, and instantly you can see that sort of pump, but then it goes away. Yeah. But then you keep training longer and longer and longer. And then what you used to look like pumped ends up becoming your day-to-day look.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to zoom out for that. But that really is the patience and persistence is the thing. You won't see the changes day to day, so to speak, but over months and years, you will absolutely see these changes. We just have to extend our time horizon. Yeah. And learn to delay gratification just that little bit more. That sort of makes sense.
It does, but that's becoming more and more difficult.
Correct.
In the world that we live in today, man. It's just
100%. But the difficulty is proportional to the value. So because it's becoming more and more difficult, the better you can get at doing it, the more valuable it is for you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah? That's a very good point.
So the harder it gets, the less people are going to do it. So if you can get good at this, if you can get comfortable doing uncomfortable things or doing difficult things, the upside is greater. The upside is so huge.
There's like this, I think the divide is growing though as well. Like even though there are so many people who just want that, like that quick success, there's just as many people like equally who are just so motivated and persistent at the same time, right? So I think like the divide between people is growing. Both groups are growing exponentially.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't think they're both growing exponentially. I think the group, I think because of that attention economy and the way that the technology is and the content's delivered and things like that now, it's just so much easier to get cheap dopamine whenever you want, like empty, like fast food. There's so much fast food around. There's so much fast dopamine around as well, like cheap and easy junk dopamine. I think that that's growing pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
But I also think that there are people becoming more aware and learning to go against it. But because it is the path, like the path less trodden, that's how I would say. It isn't the path of least resistance, therefore less people will do it. I think the path of least resistance is that cheap dopamine path, the junk dopamine, and I think that's growing faster than the path of least resistance.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I think, and it's a unique group of people that are going on that hard path. But I think it's the difficulty and the hardness that makes it adds the value, it adds the specialness to life. If it was all easy, it would all be nothing. Right? I think it is the fact that it is difficult, it is harder, that actually makes it sweet, so to speak. It gives the meaning to life. I think that's really what it's about. Overcoming hardship, seeking discomfort. I think it's a hella good thing. Okay, last one, the law of solitude. This law states that the most important work you do is often done in solitude. To build new habits, you need to find a quiet, distraction-free environment where you can focus and make consistent progress. I found this to be immensely helpful for me.
It's the truth, man. Like if you're surrounded with people who aren't motivated to, set goals, achieve goals, and you surround yourself with those kind of people, you will most likely fall into the same habits that they have, acquired their habits, right?
Correct.
So either you find a group which is aligned with some of your own principles, or law of solitude.
Well, I would say use both, right? Like have the solitude and have the group of people that help as well, because they're two different things. But they both help you contribute to your goal. But I think this, in the modern age, this solitude, being alone, I think this is becoming, I think it's harder and harder for people to be alone. I love my own time alone, just being with myself. But I remember there was times in my life where I didn't, where I'd always be like, oh, what's my friend up to? Or what are they doing? Et cetera, trying to keep myself occupied or stimulated. Whereas now I find myself really, really cherishing that solitude time. And it was hard to do initially. It was hard to get it. Yeah. But as I did it more and more, it became better and better. And now it's become a joy for me. Whereas before it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get the solitude. Now I look forward to it.
I agree, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. It takes a little bit of practice to sort of get used to yourself and being alone, actually.
Yeah, so it's like your own shit.
Yeah, it's called dealing with your own shit. Yeah, dude.
Because, like, honestly, if you don't like being with yourself, why should anyone else like to be around you?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I agree. Like, sorry. Yeah.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna expand on that. I was gonna say, I remember moving out of my parents' house, and I think I was like 20, 19 or 20 when I started uni. And that was like, actually, even like before that, I remember as a kid, dude, I remember being bored a lot as a kid because we lived in the country. And sometimes I would just like be alone and I would just have to be like playing with like some random shit outside, or, like walking around trees and looking at the trees, or looking at animals, or just not having video games or TV to occupy myself with. So I had a lot of like time in solitude, in like nature, and yeah, because we didn't have a lot of friends in the neighborhood, right? So I think that was like my first experiences when I was really young, just like all alone in the forest, just looking around, imagining things basically. And then I would look for trouble as well.
Yeah, I can relate to that 100%.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good skill. Like I've had similar things. I grew up in the city, like inner city, like King's Cross in Sydney, which is just like, it's like the party district. It's super intense. And then moving to like ultra rural, like 2,500 people in a town, and just like completely different experiences. But I think that diversity is good. And I think, forcing yourself to learn how to enjoy nature or be present there is a valuable skill too. But I think that like not having all the video games is probably has been a good thing. Would you say?
Yeah. We did have video games, but like it wasn't like it is now. Like we weren't playing like all day, you know what I mean? Like I would play like a couple hours and then that's all we were allowed to. My mom she was a really good mom. Like she would really take control of like what we were allowed to do. Like we weren't allowed to eat unhealthy. We weren't allowed to watch a lot of TV. We weren't allowed to play all the video games. Like we had to be doing other shit. So we were always outside, always outside
Playing. And that's such a great way to learn. Play is such a good way to learn. And it teaches all these indirect skills. I have a whole thing about getting kids outside, playing in the dirt, falling over, making mistakes, jumping off things, hitting banging yourself, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just such good training data for other things that, like, if you don't learn that young, you got to learn it later in life, and it's just so much more dangerous later in life. All right? Like, let kids fight. Let them run it, like, eat dirt. Let them do whatever when they're young, right? Like, get it out of the way. Let your body, like, let your brain and your body learn from that. And then, like, anyway, that's a whole nother pod. We could do that, a whole nother one. Okay, so we'll wrap this up, right? So we've got how can someone use these to set some new goals and habits for 2023? So we've got that whole thing. We'll include this PDF in the pod, right? I asked so what's some other good goal or habits for self or personal development, right? So if you're someone who's not necessarily where they want to be, I think just starting with some personal development is probably the greatest thing you can actually do, right? Develop yourself, and then from there you can then develop greater things or beyond that, right? In professional life, in business, in relationships, in any other thing. But first and foremost, I think you should work on becoming a better version of you, personal development, right? So here are some habits that can be helpful for self or personal development. Number one is exercise. So regular physical activity has a number of benefits, including improving physical health, mental health, and cognitive function, right? So that cognitive function is a big one, because the better your brain works, the easier it is to learn new skills and develop new habits and achieve more goals. The more physical fit you are, the easier it is to do the work to get there. And the better mental health you have, the better your mindset is, the more positive you are, the more things will be possible for you in the world, okay? Meditation, right? Practice mindfulness meditation to improve focus, reduce stress and anxiety, and increase self-awareness. Now, one thing, I'll make a note, all right? Ice baths are great for learning how to meditate.
Yeah, you just got no choice, because your body's saying, yo, get me the fuck out of here. And you really got to concentrate and fight it and fight it and fight it. And it's agonizing.
Yeah. Be present and learn to breathe, right? So that's what I found with ice baths. Ice baths are a phenomenal tool for learning how to breathe, okay? If you allow your body to get out of control, like when you get in, every cell in your body tells you to get the fuck out. It's like, that is stupid. This is freezing. We're going to die. Get out, right? You have to use your executive function, that frontal lobe, to overcome that sensory input that's telling you to get out and override it. You got to learn how to control your state, control your body, control the stressful situation. And breathing is your greatest tool to do that, okay? So that teaches you how to breathe. And then that being present in your breath is a form of meditation. Okay. Not only that is because you're in the cold and you know all the health benefits from doing the ice bath, right? You can remind yourself while you're in there, just breathe through this. This is good for me. I'm doing this because it is challenging. It is meant to be cold. I'm meant to be cold. That's the whole idea, right? I've found no single other tool has helped me meditate better than ice baths. Ice baths have improved my ability to meditate and the cadence at which I meditate than ice baths. They are fantastic for that, as well as all the health benefits you get, okay? Number 2, reading. Read books, articles, and other materials to expand your knowledge and learn new skills, all right? And I would say here, first one is learn about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Learn about, how bad's my typing? Okay, that would be my first one, right? Because that to me is the key belief that needs to change within you. Once you adopt a growth mindset, anything's possible. Do you agree?
I mean, this is the first time that I heard about this concept. So,
okay,
yeah, I mean, this growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Yeah, that was cool when you mentioned it earlier in the podcast. And I mean, yeah, I'm understanding it. And yeah, I agree. I agree. That's cool, man.
Okay, so number 4, writing. Keep a journal or write in other ways to reflect your thoughts, feelings, and experiences, and to process and clarify your ideas. Now, why is this important? So, our brain, we have long-term memory and short-term memory. We can use an analogy to computers. Computers, you have your hard drive, okay? That's like long-term memory. And then you have your RAM or random access memory, and that's kind of like your short-term memory, yeah? Now, in our brains, our short-term memory typically can only really hold like 7 things in it, right? This is like on average, 7 things in it. And as soon as you put an 8th, the other one drops off and you hold 7 again. So you can only ever hold so much. It's finite, right? And it's very limited in comparison to your long-term memory. Long-term memory, you can store heaps of stuff. You can have like a terabyte, like the terabyte hard drive, whereas it's hard to have a terabyte of RAM in your computer. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah.
So long-term memory is big and slow. Short-term memory is small and fast. Simplest way to think about it. Now, what writing allows you to do is to download those things in your short-term memory or your working memory and also your long-term memory. But it's like taking part of that space that's taken up in your memory, right? And then freeing it up by putting it down on the paper, you free it up from your mind. And so then it creates the space for you to have different things in your short-term memory or different things in your long-term memory. That kind of makes sense, but it also helps to order it. Yeah, it's like if you don't have think about your mind as like a filing or like a giant room. And without writing, it's just like you just chuck stuff into the room, like pieces of paper into the room, okay? And then when you write, it's like putting a filing system into the room. And all of those pieces of paper get put in filing systems by name or by title or something. It just helps you organize your thoughts better. And I found that has been very useful for me. And that's why it's one of my goals is to write more and publish that writing this year. So learning, take courses, workshops, or other educational opportunities to continue learning and growing as a person, right? You can also learn by doing, to do more things, do new things, okay? Get out and do new things. Like it says, take courses or other educational opportunities. You also learn from reading as well. So it's multifaceted. Understanding time management. Number 6, use time management techniques like prioritization, delegation, and the Pomodoro technique to make the most of your time and achieve your goals, right? So these are good things to understand. I don't like to block my day out completely, but I like to create the space or allocate certain amounts of time, right, to do certain things. Yeah? So managing your time is very important. But I don't like to take it to an extreme where every minute of my day is planned. I don't like that much structure, but I think some structure is better than no structure.
Yeah, so the Pomodoro technique or Pomodoro, whatever, is basically allocating a certain amount of time to a task and then taking intermittent breaks.
Correct?
Yeah.
And they normally start with like 25-minute blocks. So if you do like sit down, do 25 minutes of a new skill or a new habit or study or reading or writing or any number of those different things. And then once you hit that timer, you've sat down and done it for that period of time, or you've committed to doing it for that period of time, you can then stop that timer, go and have a break for 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and then you can come back for another one. So it's like setting the bar really low just to get you in the habit of doing it. So you could literally do the Pomodoro technique with like 5 minutes or 2 minutes, right? If it's meditation, start with, and you've never meditated before, do 1 minute of meditation and then have a break, and then come back and do 1 more minute. Like, it sounds silly, but it's rigging the game to win, right? Little steps end up becoming big things. So number 7 is setting the goal setting, right? So setting those goals to sort of give you a destination on the map, right? And then these other things are the steps that take you towards that destination, right? But without the goals, it can sometimes be hard to commit to taking the steps if you don't know where you're going, right? And the goal sort of gives you that destination. And then personal finance. Manage your finances by creating a budget, tracking expenses, and informed financial decisions, right? So that's like a real financy kind of way to say it. I'd just be like, understand how much money comes in to your life or to you every week or every month. Try and get an awareness of how much money typically goes out every month, and just make sure that you have more money coming in than going out.
Absolutely.
It's just that, and that is where I would start with that. So I'll write that as a thing. Make sure that on average all money comes in. God.
I've had to get really good at this since I lost all my money in crypto.
You and everybody else in crypto.
Oh yeah.
90% down's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Oh, just buy the dip. Just buy the dip. Just buy the dip.
The next dip. It's one of my favorite memes. Okay. Yeah. So then we've got included in this doc some good habits for growing a business, etc. Right? So this is where like planning and goal setting, which we've sort of done today. We've spoken about the time management, the Pomodoro technique, networking. Right? This is kind of like what we were hinting at with you, but through some different aspects. Right? So that's a really big one. Continue learning, marketing, obviously, customer relations. Right? Engaging with your community if you have one, dealing with those sorts of things. Obviously financial management, like we just spoke about, and then building a team of people to support you, right? Getting people around you who have a common goal or who are driven like you, right? Or who have skills that can help you to get to where you want, or that you can collaborate with or work together to create something greater than the sum of the parts. And then lastly, we go over the Pomodoro technique, but we don't need to do any of that. But that's my thing. That was the habits, systems, and goals. And we'll have this PDF attached in the show notes. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss, Guy?
No, I think that's solid, dude. And I think there's a lot of really, really solid content in this podcast and in this PDF that people who want to identify as goal setters, as achieving things in life, can really benefit from that PDF, but only if you are willing to identify as what's a growth mind?
Yeah, growth mindset.
As a growth mindset. So
I think that is the first step for any one person is to identify if you're a fixed mindset or growth mindset, and if you're fixed, change it to growth. Straight up.
All right, dude. Oh, well done, Rubes. That was a nice document.
Wrap it up. That's us, Finn.
All right. If you enjoyed this podcast and you are a person that is going to make some good changes this year, tell us about it in the comments. What are some of your goals in 2023? And, maybe come back in 2024 and let us know, did you achieve those goals? How did you achieve them? Because other people will benefit from hearing your achievements as well. So make sure you write them into the comments. Remember to give the video a like. And, if you didn't like it, that's cool. Give us a thumbs down. We don't give a fuck. And if you want to talk some shit in the comments section, about how we're just two big idiots, go ahead and do that as well. Share the video with your friends and family. I think that they would benefit from watching this content greatly. And thanks for viewing, watching, and subscribing.
Nice guy. So I would add one thing to that. I would, if you think that this might be beneficial for someone you know, feel free to share it with them. Also, if you want to set some goals for this year and you're not necessarily proficient with it or don't know how to go about it, write it in the comments. We can help you out in the comments. We'll be present in those comments to provide some tips and tricks along the way, or even provide some help with these structures. Like and subscribe, obviously, if you care to. We'll be getting more content similar to this, just talking about real shit that we've experienced in our lives and discovered, and things that have helped us. And next week, what were we going to do next week?
We could talk about the concept of instinctful training.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Learning
we could share a little bit
out of program.
Yeah. We could share a little bit about how we got into training and why we started training as well. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Well, peace.
All right, bro. Love you, dude.
Enjoy.
Peace.
Love you too, guy.